we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts, and on awesome radio stations worldwide. Plus, also as well, Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Chris Sardieri from the Domination Sports Nation and I cover the world of the NFL and fantasy football like no one else. And we say to you on this week's episode, don't hit the panic button just yet if you started out 0-2 or struggling at this point in time. It's our annual Don't Hit the Panic Button episode. So go ahead and check out our thoughts on what you can do to save your team and right the ship and head towards some victories in your fantasy football team. So go ahead and check it out today, wherever you get your podcast. Plus also as well, you know I cover the latest news and information in the world of the NBA and the Los Angeles Lakers with the Lakers Fast Break. We have sometimes 7 shows a week or more waiting for you each and every time out, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. So go ahead and check that out today. Plus also as well, of course, the great things that are going on with the Vampires and Vitae. You need to subscribe today to get the latest notifications every single weekend when the Vampires and Vitae go on the air with another amazing adventure. And Wild Beyond the Witchlight with Wizards and Wine, that great place as well for all your tabletop RPG needs. It needs to happen for you, and it can if you subscribe today to those great outlets indeed, or follow us here, Pop Culture Cosmos, wherever you get your social media, and the latest news and trends we report on each and every day at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend and co-fellow in crime to go ahead and give some love to Payday 3, which is out right now, wherever you get your video games. It is a great friend indeed. You got to go ahead and check out what she's doing today at the Vampires of Vitae and, of course, Wild Beyond the Witchlight and everything that she does out there in the universe. It is, of course, Melinda Barkhouse Ross. And Melinda, all the stuff that's going on, we've got Xbox leaks all over the place, just like a leaky faucet, like a dam that the leaks are all over the place. We've got Ahsoka, big reveals all over the place as well. Mortal Kombat. Unfortunately, it's great combat everywhere other than the Switch. Plus also as well, we got Idris Elba. He's coming out with Cyberpunk 2077. My gosh, there's so much to talk about and more. But I cannot forget one of our favorite shows that we like to watch is coming back after a long hiatus. Upload Season 3 on Amazon. I just dropped the trailer on Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. Please go ahead and check it out. It is one of the most underrated shows that's out there. It's coming October 20th to Amazon Prime.
That's fantastic. I still need to get caught up on season 2. I mean, I feel like I say that every time we sit down and talk about a show. I'm like, I gotta get caught up. I do watch TV sometimes.
Well, I tell you what, if that one's not really hard to catch up on because they did truncate it because of what was going on with the pandemic. So they had a much shorter than planned season, but it still was pretty good despite the issues that they had. So please go ahead and check it out. Season 1 is awesome. I just thought it was really a lot of fun. It is not the highest budgeted show in the world, I can tell you that. But still, if you take that with a little bit of tongue-in-cheekness and just really just immerse yourself in the setting, it is really a lot of fun to watch. The characterizations, the actors and actresses interacting, it's all a lot of fun. And it's a good time. And I think that Upload Season 3 will continue that. Now that they've had some more time to work on it, we'll actually get back on the road to being one of the best comedies out there on television.
It's such a unique concept, and we complain all of the time about all of these remakes and stuff that they seem to do, and we're like, where's the creativity? Well, it's in this show. It's such a cool concept, and honestly, the way that AI seems to be going, it might not be that far off.
Exactly, indeed. So please catch it as far as the great trailer that they just uploaded. Amazon Prime. There you go. Pardon the pun.
What you did there.
Absolutely. I just uploaded it to the Facebook page at Pop Culture Cosmos, so catch that indeed. Plus, the latest news and trends are listed out right there as well. But we got a great show to talk about. A lot of great things that are out there. So much to talk about when it comes to Xbox. But I wanted to go ahead. We'll start off with Star Wars Ahsoka, which I think it's doing well. It's actually been a good show, a good watch so far. I kind of favorite on the plus side as compared to some of the other stuff that Disney Plus has put out there of note in the past 18 months. I put it up there just behind, of course, Andor, Star Wars Andor. I thought that was really, really quite good. And also Loki. I think that was, and Hawkeye. I think those are my really in the past 18, 24 months. Those are the highlights. There's been a lot of lowlights on Disney Plus, but Ahsoka is coming out quite well. They had a very much lauded episode last week dealing with a lot of Ahsoka's past with Anakin Skywalker, and you got to see a lot of that. This week, however, you got to see the debuts of two characters from the Clone Wars universe that people were really waiting to see, and that was Grand Admiral Thrawn and Ezra Bridger. So your thoughts on that? I know you still going to catch up on it, but you knew this was coming. Everybody saw this was coming because obviously they were bringing back all the characters from those great animated series that everybody seems to love, or those actually the audience that loved watching it seems to really enjoy. Now it's getting a whole even larger audience that didn't catch the Clone Wars episodes. Now they're actually catching it now for the first time, or starting to catch up with what's going on in that universe. And now that it's finally starting to shape up as far as what's coming up ahead, you can start seeing the signs slowly about how they're going to go ahead and expand Ahsoka's world, and also Grand Admiral Thrawn's plan for the universe into a much bigger detail in the coming months, weeks, and years.
Yeah, I did catch the first couple of episodes, and I remember watching the first episode, and I was like, "This is going to be a great series." And then you start to read the critics' thoughts and things like that, and everybody is talking about how slow it was, and how it's going to be another dud of a show for Star Wars. And I was like, I watch the same show as everybody else, so I'm glad to see that everybody else has caught up to what I saw in
It
the show.
started to progress. It's a slow burn, pardon the pun, but it does get there by around the, I'd say, the fourth episode. It starts to really find its groove. They got stuck on a planet for a little while, but once they finally go ahead and set things in motion, it's really starting to go ahead and being something that not only fans of the Clone Wars and the Dave Filoni verse, as far as I should say the Dave Filoni animated verse, if you're a fan of that, which I wasn't because I really just didn't catch much of it, but I don't need to be because it's now catching me up with everything on there. I know the hows and the whys without having to watch all those back episodes. I now feel like I'm a part of something good, and I'm intrigued to see where it goes next.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and it seems like it's a warm embrace by Star Wars fans, which can be hard to get. So I'm glad to see that come through, especially for now. As soon as I said, especially for, I have lost her name.
Star Wars Ahsoka, as far as Rosario Dawson, the lead
Rosario
character.
Dawson, yes, her.
Mhm.
Especially for her. I've been watching her career for a while, and I've been a fan. So I'm glad to see all of the Star Wars success coming her way on top of everything else that she's achieved.
Absolutely, as am I, and I'm very intrigued to see where this series goes next. Something again, I think that it's now leaning for me on as far as one of the better series here on Disney Plus. Along with that, we'll be seeing Loki here for season 2. That's coming up here in just a couple weeks after the last 2 episodes air for Star Wars Ahsoka. So I'm excited to go ahead and see quality TV, quality shows, one after the other. After we've had some issues over the course of the past 2 years with Disney Plus shows being a lot of hit and miss. So I'm intrigued to see what's going to go on with Ahsoka as they finish off this season. I heard they already starting and continuing a season 2 before the strike, that they had already started production on that for season 2. There's also been talk about how this is going to lead to an heir to the empire full on movie, whether or not it becomes a movie trilogy or just a movie. Wait and see. How I'm not sure though how much or how long they can stretch this out. It's good right now in its place, and you can see what happens, but if you already know Thrawn's plan, you already know what he intends to do, you already know what he's going to go about it. The question is, how long can you spread this out, and how many films can you spread this out over? Is it just going to be Ahsoka season 2, maybe a season 3, and then you throw out the film and make it a complete final exclamation point? Or are you trying to, if you're Disney, trying to bleed it dry and make a movie trilogy plus a series? I don't know which combination, and I don't know how long they're going to be able to go ahead and keep me invested as a viewer into this series.
I don't know. Like I keep looking at stuff like, and I keep going back to it because I thought it was a brilliant move with the MCU and Agents of Shield on TV. The movie drops that weekend. The next episode refers to things that happened in said movie. I've always thought that that was a brilliant and such easy self-marketing tool for the creators of that universe. So perhaps take a page out of that book since they have Marvel as well. I can't see why you can't copy and paste that kind of scenario and make it work for the Ahsoka universe. I think it would be clever.
Well, there you go. I have some very, very good thoughts about what's going on with Star Wars Ahsoka so far. I'm really encouraged by the good signs for it, as we're starting to see the plans of Grand Admiral Thrawn, just bits by bits. He's still in the other side of the galaxy at this point in time, and Ahsoka is heading to that location. And but they did were able to locate one of the heroes from the earlier Dave Filoni series and all the Clone Wars and all that, and Ezra Bridger. So they were able to go ahead and showcase all the major players. Now it's now, where can they take this series from there? So we're going to continue to see what happens here in the last 2 episodes of season 1 of Ahsoka. So I'm intrigued. They've got me right now. They've got me hooked. Can they keep me hooked? That's the question for everyone out there, is can they keep us all hooked, especially those that are not as familiar with the Clone Wars scenario? So if you're watching it, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Please let us know if Star Wars Ahsoka season 1 is something that you're catching right now on television that you're enjoying, or you're thinking that maybe it's not quite where you want it to be, because Star Wars Ahsoka is going to be the start of something that all this comes into play. And that doesn't even count what the Mandalorian and how that could come into play, as far as combining all these elements into a larger scope for Grand Admiral Thrawn, the heir to the Empire, the Mandalorian, how that all comes into play into the Filoniverse. Please let us know your thoughts on how Star Wars Ahsoka season 1 is doing for you. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, also got a lot of great things to talk about as far as what's going on with some game releases that are coming out this week and have come out this week. First up, I kind of wanted to try and move it past Josh and I's conversation on Monday, because it really hadn't, I guess, been fully released at that time. It was it's one of those deals where last week it was released, Mortal Kombat 1, to, if you bought the special editions, so they give you the 5-day prep as far as the pre-access, yada yada yada. You started seeing some of the reviews roll out. Then the full release came out the day after our Pop Culture Cosmos aired, so it's been out for a few days now. The reviews came out for the next gen systems and some of the current gen systems that it's on, including the Nintendo Switch. But I'll start off with the positive, and that it is done pretty good on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. It's getting right around at 85 on Metacritic, right around where Starfield's at, as
Right.
far as that's concerned. So, like, good solid B, B plus to it, depending on who you go ahead and reach out to as far as for your reviews and all that. So pretty solid scores as far as for this reboot of the Mortal Kombat franchise. It's got a lot of intriguing things. It's more than just fighting with this game, and also as well earlier this year, Street Fighter 6. It's more than just the fight itself. It's about other things that you can do as far as training modes, as far as full other story modes, other game modes that are added in there. It seems like the experience from fighting games is just much more now than just sitting down and battling against one other player.
Yeah, and I think I think that's a positive. Although don't get me wrong, I do enjoy a good button smashing session. Just going mad on the contrler
I'm
and not
gonna
really
beat you up,
paying
Robbie, right now on the video
attention.
game right now. Yes, yes, yes. Man, I can see you
As
now
you do.
as I can see you now as one of the Baraka. There you go. Just like
Yeah.
ripping Robbie's character out there, as far as its heart out, or just lift his whole head. You see the little spinal
Oh.
cord or one of the fatalities, and you're just like, got you, Robbie. And he has this dejected look on his face, like,
I can
thanks,
neither
honey.
confirm nor deny these facts.
There you go. Absolutely. I could just see these happening. Just
Yeah,
you with
right.
the tearful glee of joy on your face as you did one of the fatalities on his characters.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, it's funny, but yeah, no, it's cool to see a bit of an evolution in those fighting games where you do have a story mode now that you can follow through, and you can do more of a training kind of thing in the game. I think that's smart. I think that there are video gamers out there who do like the fighting games a lot, and it's just good to see things I think evolve a little bit from round one go. you
Or
know
fight.
yeah, so it's good to see that kind of progress, I guess, with those games. But I mean, maybe better other things should happen first.
Such as what?
Geez, I don't know. Better graphics than 1994.
Well, okay. I will say if you look at the PlayStation 5 version,
Yeah.
that is cutting edge. Photorealism, the
Yeah.
way, especially in the story mode,
Mhm.
the way that
As
they
it should
speak.
be.
Yes, it is really, really well done. It's one of the best graphical games that's out there, especially for facial animation. Please take note, Bethesda, on what that NetherRealm did as far as Mortal Kombat there. But and
However.
however, forever how great it looks on a next gen platform. They made the mistake of making a direct port. We're just going to take the game that way. I feel like you're taking my size, like my feet, my size 13 foot. And it's like you're taking all the great things about my toes, my ankle, my feet, the whole thing, and you're trying to shove it into a kiddie shoe of a size 2. And you're trying to cram it in there, and you're trying to make sure every corner of it's filled with something. And you just, when it comes out and you're trying to go ahead and you walk out there with your size 13 feet and a size 2 shoe, it's not looking too pretty.
Yeah,
And
we could call it unfortunate. It looks unfortunate.
well, it's unfortunate because it was a really bad mistake for me to
Yeah,
put my foot in that type of shoe. It's
right.
also a mistake for NetherRealm and basically WB Games and all that to go ahead and try to shoehorn the exact port into a Nintendo Switch, not the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever they're going to call it, that it's going to come out next year, most likely, according to rumors and all the things, because dev kits are already out now and everybody's already looking at it. I'm sorry, it's being shown off as far as dev kits are concerned behind the scenes. So it looks like that it's going to be well on its way by this time next year, that, or not much after that, that there's going to be a Switch 2 or some Switch Pro or something out on the way that's going to be substantially better. But to put it on a system that the PlayStation 4 and also as well the Xbox One, which was the last series, still beats over the Nintendo Switch as far as graphical capability, that is a mistake. And if you've seen the videos out there, and as I showed Melinda here just before we went on the air, it is some really ugly stuff. This is probably one of the worst ported games I've ever seen. I know that EA has done a terrible job porting FIFA to the Switch. The Switch, because it has over 100 million, it's one of the greatest selling consoles of all time. Everybody wants a piece of that money and piece of that market. The problem is you're trying to shoehorn a game on a higher platform into a much lower powered unit, and you're getting terrible results.
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, that whew, I don't even have
That's
I
what you
don't
said when
understand.
you watched that video.
Yeah, I don't understand what the thinking was there. I don't know in
But
what
it's
universe.
laziness. It's
I
laziness because
gosh, I guess.
you won't make a separate version
Yeah.
specifically intended for that console. You try to cut corners and just shove the square box into the round hole,
Yeah, and wow, you lose a lot when you do that.
as I see. Although it
Yep.
provides for great entertainment and great comedy.
It certainly does. I mean, gosh, it would almost be worth getting for just the lulz of it all.
Yes. Well, if you want to spend $70 on it, absolutely be my guest. But you are going to get something that looks like a disaster zone. I mean, you said it perfectly. You thought the graphics of Mortal Kombat 1 on the Nintendo Switch looked comparable to the original Tomb Raider on PlayStation, which was absolutely horrible.
Right? But I mean, at the time, it was cutting edge and it was incredible. But now,
Yes.
yeah, that's exactly what I thought as soon as it in the video that you sent, it was when the guy took off the sunglasses.
Johnny
That was
Cage.
that was the moment that really got me. I was like, "Oh, oh
Yeah.
no."
Any definitive features are all gone. It just, yeah,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
bad.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely bad.
It's almost as bad looking as, when they had to CGI the open eyes on, what's his face there for the Blade movie where he wouldn't open his eyes during the scenes.
Oh, you're
You
talking
know what
about
I mean?
yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
You
For
know what
Wesley
I mean? Like,
Snipes?
yes, yes, in the Blade movie where I don't know what it was that he was doing or what it was that he was trying to prove, but like it's even comparable to that. It's just like, oh my goodness. It is
Uh,
really unfortunate.
and it
Mm,
just shows that you cannot do this. You become the laughing stock of the industry. So everything positive you get from the game coming out to such really strong reviews on a next gen platform seemingly get all taken away because all anyone can talk about is not how the good the game is on one platform, it's how bad it is on another.
yeah, absolutely. And the way that humans tend to be, they'll talk about the bad news before they'll talk about the good news. So all of that positive press that you were getting is now going to be just overwritten on the internet, and that this is what it's going to be known for.
I have no idea who greenlit that, and its problem is there's testers. There's people that they pay at the studios to go ahead and test this out. Former reviewers are supposed to be usually part of any major studio right now to go ahead and check these out and provide input before you release these games. But yeah, whoever's bright idea to go ahead and release this crap out there, and that's the best way to say it. So apologies for that, anybody, if they wanted, for saying that, but it's just junk when you throw it out there like that. It is disrespectful to the gamers out there because you're asking
Truly.
people to put or buy 70 or pay $70 for junk like this, and it's just really unfortunate that that happened. So for all the good that Mortal Kombat 1 did on one platform, it does a truly horrible thing on another, and I think it's representative of everybody just trying to go ahead and get a piece of that huge pie from Nintendo, which we'll talk about again a little bit later on here coming up on the show.
Yes, we will.
But before we head to the half hour break, my friend, a couple other games that are actually more positive right out now that have not had that kind of same brushback as of yet. One is Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out with a major well, actually the original Cyberpunk 2077 when it came out that had a lot of brushback, but
Yeah, it did.
the DLC Phantom Liberty starring Idris Elba has come out to rave reviews. And I want to hear your thoughts on this because you experienced the crash of Cyberpunk 2077. Almost like it's like the crash on Wall Street. The crash of 2077 when it originally came out in such a terrible state on most of the platforms that it got released on, and it was something that frustrated many people, including yourself. In fact,
Yeah.
I had you were on the show. You vented very, very much so about the situation that was going on. But flash forward 2 years later, and this is the problem. I want my games to come out like this and be in this shape at the time they would get released. It's the games like this, No Man's Sky, a couple other games like Fallout 76. They come out horrible shape, and then they finally get good 2 to 5 years down the road. That's not what I want to do initially when I put down $60 to $70.
Well, but it wasn't just 60 or $70 that I had put down because I believe at the time it was like the only thing that Robbie had asked for Christmas.
Oh, it was
So
the
I put
collector's edition, I think,
Yeah, I
right?
put the money down for like the top tier edition of the game that I could get. And we played it 3 or 4 times and we have not touched it since. We have
Well,
not gone back to it.
it is substantially better now than what it was then. So I'm hoping that you decide to do that. But I'm hearing great reviews.
Mm,
They've done with an amazing job of patching it since then. But the problem is
right.
that they've had to patch it in the years since. Like you've never gone back to it. That's
Mhm.
part of the problem right there. But if you decide to go ahead and get Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, I think you'll see a culmination of all the hard work they put into it at CD Projekt Red since then to try and make it the game that was supposed to be intended to when it came out those years ago.
Yeah, it feels like that game that you play where you put your hands over each other and you try to slap your hands,
Yeah.
you know? It feels like with that game in particular that I'm trying to play the game and I really want to put my hands back out, but I'm so upset about how hard I got slapped the last time I played that I can't bring myself to put my hand back in the pot.
I'll tell you what, though, for a Christmas present to Robbie, since you love him so much and love him so dearly, I think it should be the best thing that you should do is get him Mortal Kombat 1 for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I think so too. Dude, it's the gift
Here
that
you
keeps
go,
on
Robbie.
giving.
Cutting edge for you here.
It was incredible. I'm floored over it. I really am. Woof. Okay, sorry.
No worries. But last but not least, on the new game releases that are, we're now in a time where all these big games are coming out week after week after week. And I'm just loving it because it's great, because it's hitting at us left and right. Payday 3, which the series is a multiplayer first person shooter game, but the idea of it is mainly as far as in the realm of bank robbers or special missions that you and others are joined together to go ahead as far as do nefarious things like you're breaking into certain buildings or breaking into banks. Or there was one I saw from Payday 2 where they were on a bridge trying to break into armored cars to get a prisoner out as far as one of their fellow uh, partners in crime, so to speak. Your thoughts about Payday 3 getting solid reviews? Still, to me, not the best looking game when I compare it to, of all things, Mortal Kombat 1 on a new generation, not the Switch, mind you, the PS5. I have
That's
to
such a
make
good
sure.
example of, again, it doesn't matter how much good press it has on any other platform. That's the only thing I'm going to see when you say Mortal Kombat 1.
But the thing is, it's like a standard both ways. It's like
Yeah.
this is the best on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. This is some of the best that you can actually see. And then we have the worst of modern gaming that you can see on Nintendo Switch. But we're talking about, yeah, Payday 3
Oh.
is not the best looking game in the world, but you're there
Mhm.
to basically, go ahead, be in some multiplayer assignments with some, your co-op partners, but going through this and the fluid gameplay, the first person action that you're experiencing is something that that part they've tightened up. Wish it would looked a little better graphically, but again, the solid gameplay and the co-op teamwork is what really counts.
Yeah, the graphics to me, graphics don't have to be top tier if the gameplay is really smooth and the multiplayer stuff works as it should, and the co-op stuff is strong. As long as that's checking those boxes, I can let some less than stellar graphics slide, really.
Okay, absolutely. So Payday 3 is out in the wild. Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, the DLC for Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty is out now. And also Mortal Kombat 1 on next generation, but our favorite version on Nintendo Switch. So tell us, what's the game you're going to play this weekend? And if it is MK1 on Nintendo Switch, we really, really want to hear your thoughts on why Melinda should get it for Robbie this
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah,
Pop
yeah.
Culture
Sell it to
Cosmos.
me. Sell it to me.
Exactly. Pop Culture Cosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, 1/2 hour down, 1/2 hour to go on this awesome episode of the PCC Multiverse. Thanks so much for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. Please catch Melinda Barkhouse Ross each and every week on Vampires and Vitae as she and her husband and a whole merry crew keep on going to go ahead and make sure you have great adventures as you follow them as far as the tabletop RPG realm each and every week. Some great aspirations. What's going on right now with Vampires of Vitae? Catch everyone up. What's going on in season 3?
Okay, so Vampires of Vitae season 3, I believe we're on episode 13 this
Mhm.
Sunday. Basically, we have 4 vampires who have decided to leave the rule of the Camarilla or the Camarilla, West Coast, East Coast. Everybody has a different opinion about how to pronounce it. And they're kind of striking out on their own. So it's the first Anarch game that we're playing.
Mhm.
And the point is that all of these vampires are heading west, trying to carve out their own path, trying to break away from their sires and trying to make a name for themselves and establish themselves. So they were on a train. The train ride, of course, eventful, as it should be, kind of a murder on the Orient Express kind of moment we had on the trip to the West. We finally get to the last stop where there was supposed to be a town built by one of our characters. He was funding all of these buildings, and we get there, and well, there's not a whole lot. So we're involved in trying to build this town. We're trying to not give away the fact that we're vampires. And yeah, we're just getting to the point where we're getting a couple of new buildings starting to be built and stuff like that. So lots of twists and turns, as Robbie does as storyteller when he sits beside the microphone in the big chair. So no, it's been a really fun season, and it's we've stripped away everything, and we're just really back to telling this small story about this group of vampires who are really in their minds trying to do their absolute best to build a new world in the West. So hijinks and horror and all of the good stuff are still to come.
And you can catch it each and every week on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. That is Vampires and Vitae. Also, as well, she does some great work as well with Wild Beyond a Witchlight on the Wizards and Wine channel, indeed. But I will tell you, when it comes to leaks and it comes to somebody probably losing their job this week, and I'm not exactly calling the WWE cuts because you saw the fallout from their merger with the UFC and Endeavor. Unfortunately, a lot of people there were laid off, as was expected. We just saw today a whole bunch of lower tier uh, wrestlers who were not as well thought of in the company. They were also given their release as well, along with several dozen employees, about 100 per se last week as far as the WWE. I'm talking about the individual at Microsoft who, when uploading all the material in relation to the battle between Xbox and FTC over the Federal Trade Commission over the purchase of Activision. And unfortunately, during the process, they leaked some material out onto a government website that was easily found. It was not redacted. So it was
Oh dear.
fun for all the individuals out there on the internet to go ahead and grab and be able to go ahead and read. And my, oh my, was there a ton of reading there. Now, let's put some things in context first, Melinda. I want to
Yeah.
first tell that you know that a lot of these memos, they date or emails, they date from 2020 to 2020 22, I think. I don't think anything was 23. There may have been, but a lot of these things that were mentioned in the as far as these memos and emails and whatnot, they don't hold the same date timeline as they did in these memos. So you would have to take them as with a grain of salt. And some of these projects they may have canceled since those memos were created. So let's put that into some context as well, because a lot of what was in there had not already yet been released. But we'll go with the first hardware news, I guess is probably the best way. We'll go ahead and say first thing is that they had planned Xbox on doing a refresh on the Xbox Series X and S coming out next year. That was what the original memo says. I don't know if it will still come out at that point in time, but when it comes out, it's going to come out as a 2 terabyte model. It's what I'm going to base it off the Xbox Series X. It's not going to be the square unit that sits up. It's going to be a more rounded, cylindrical type, console, things of that nature. It's going to have some little bit different features, but the biggest feature is that it no longer has an optical drive. It's going to be sold for the same price, $499. It has cheaper components and so cheaper, but pretty much the same speed or faster. So it's going to be either as powerful or more powerful for the same price, but it's going to be smaller and it's going to be a little bit more profitable for Xbox because it's holding that same price. But the thing is, I mentioned, no optical drive, but was also mentioned in the memo was that the plans on when they wanted to release the next generation of console in 2028, which would put it probably this current console generation about 8 years ish, right in that realm. I don't know if they'll hold to that timeline either. Now, all bets are off at this point in time if 2028 is going to be the actual answer. But that individual console, they talked about what they're going to plan to do, making more like a cloud hybrid, more integrating more the cloud, which was such a source of the contention for the FTC and also overseas in regards to this Activision purchase. What about the cloud? What about the cloud? The cloud, which is not a great part now of gaming, they fully intended to buy in with a cloud hybrid unit coming up then. But the biggest part about it was that there's no optical disc either in any version that they had envisioned. So they pretty much, as of this point, want to get rid of the disc altogether. If they do bring it out, it would probably be as a peripheral, like they've done before in the past, has provided peripherals for disc like the HD DVD or any, they've provided that in the past. But your thoughts on ditching the optical disc in future Xbox consoles? PlayStation most likely would also follow suit on that unless there's a sheer consumer backlash. And as much as we love the actual process of having and owning tangible video games that you can hold and touch, I know Josh is very adamant about that and goes up,
Yeah.
he goes on a soapbox anytime at all in regards to that. I have a feeling there's a future not too far away where there will no longer be consoles with optical disc capabilities.
Yeah, I think the discs are going the way of the dodo bird. Honestly, I haven't bought a
Our
video.
friends at Retro City Games don't want to hear you say that.
Well, no, no, I mean in the new generation consoles.
They
Of course,
still
the
don't
old
want to
ones are
hear
gonna.
that, even though I know that they think it's probably something
Yeah,
too. So.
I just personally, I haven't bought a CD, a DVD, a game disc in years. It's everything is on a service or it's on the cloud or that's just is how I get everything. I've bought into that, I suppose. And I think I'm at ease with it because I don't know if I don't want to say I was an early adopter of Google Drive, but a lot of my life and like my prep for my D&D games, notes that I take for Vampire, other things like that that I need access to wherever I am, I go to Google Drive for. So I guess maybe that experience has made me okay with doing away with discs. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what it is. Because I'm usually the slowest when it comes to adopting new technologies. So embarrassed to
Well,
say that,
I
but
can't wait to ask Josh this question on Sunday when we record, because
yeah,
he's had this opinion several times. And, as someone who makes a living with his Happy Hoarder collectibles now, plus he also had his collection before. He is a collector and loves tangible things. So the thing is, though, they see the marketplace. Everybody
yeah.
acknowledges more people buy digital than they do physical units. And that's going to be the thing, that it's really getting harder to justify the existence of optical drives based in these consoles going forward, simply because of the fact that so many people prefer buying digital platforms.
Yeah, I think the we all have our standards, and I think the only place that I have a problem fully switching to digital is, dice for D&D. I have to have those in my hands. I have to be able to roll those, even if it's once in a game and everything else is done on D&D Beyond or whatever interface you're using. That's probably the only thing that I'm gonna end up being a stick in the mud about is giving up my physical dice. That'll have a hard time with that. So I do understand where Josh is coming from. I also am a bit of a collector of things. I'm a bit of a hoarder. Like the amount of things behind this fabric wall is shocking. It's piled on shelves, and in a weird way I know where everything is. But when it comes to having to have racks with all of the games on them and all of that stuff, I was happy to get rid of it. It felt cluttered, and that particular thing at CDs, DVDs, game discs, all made me feel a little claustrophobic. I can't really explain it beyond that. So I'm okay with letting that go.
Okay. I also wanted to go ahead and touch on one last thing, and as far as the hardware end of it, is something you also wanted mentioned as well, as far as a controller, a direct to cloud wireless controller that is in development at that point in time. It looks something like what we wanted to see as far as the future, how that will continue to evolve the controller, plus also emulating more of the PlayStation 5's capability with the swipe feature as well, and plus more haptic feedback, which was something that, again, we don't know if this will ever come to the light of day, or if if they do release it, will come in some different form, or if some features will be going and coming. But it shows that despite the fact that they do lead the console technology in some ways, that they admire some things that Sony does and try to emulate that, at least in theory. In practice, that they may do going forward as well.
Yeah, and I think that any kind of progress with the controllers, and if you can make that haptic feedback do more and give you more than every once in a while you're playing, then I'm all for that. I think that's smart. But yeah, like you said, it seems like it's a little bit of a fantastical idea right now to me. Also, I don't have a PS5, so I can't really um weigh in on what the PS5 controller is all about, or how that works, or any of that stuff. But I do think that that does feel a little fantastical, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is one of the projects that does end up getting kind of pushed away.
There you go. But we've got more to talk about here coming up in a sec. But I wanted to make sure and let you know that, again, this is about the leaks that were produced earlier this week in regards to a lot of the memos and emails that were used as evidence in the FTC battle against Microsoft in regards to the Xbox purchasing Activision. So I wanted to get you back up to speed on that. But before we head on out, Melinda, wanted to
Mhm.
go ahead and mention a little bit more into this before we get to the games part of it, because there was a ton of games that were talked about on this. Want to go ahead and talk about some of the things that were said behind the scenes and email chats, which were of great interest to you, in regards to some of the email chains. A lot of it by Xbox lead Phil Spencer. Actually, some of it did come from this year, but some of it in previous years. Like you said, they underestimated, like I think the world did, in regards to Baldur's Gate
Truly.
3 and the
Yeah.
popularity of it. I think that they were caught a little bit off guard on it, and then that's been to their detriment, because They were reluctant to go ahead and release different versions, different feature qualities for the Xbox Series X and S. So while that PlayStation 5 now has like a 2 to 3 month lead on the console for Baldur's Gate 3, that sets them back a bit there. But the biggest thing I think that came out as far as the memos that were leaked out there was the one that you took most note of in Phil Spencer, half jokingly, half not, going back and forth with some of his colleagues in regards to the possibility of purchasing Nintendo, which I think he said half jokingly. He'd he like to? Yes. Does Microsoft have the money or the number that they could throw at Nintendo? Yes. Will Nintendo accept the offer? Heck no. I think he knew that, but I think it was just something that he thought of as and he joked it would be a career defining moment for him.
Yeah.
But I think even he knows he's so familiar with the gaming marketplace, even more than you or I. He knows the ins and out and behind the scenes. He knows that Nintendo, which is, I think Nintendo it should be, they should change the language in Japanese to Nintendo mean profit, because Nintendo
Yeah.
basically means profit and a
Yeah.
lot of it. Your thoughts though on what Phil Spencer half jokingly said as far as admiring Nintendo's great work, but also eyeing it for a possible, not so possible purchase.
I mean, I guess in a way you got to applaud the man's ambition.
Yes.
You
I'll tell you
know?
what, I want to buy Nintendo too. How about that?
Yeah, yeah, Gerald, if you do, I'll be happy to jump on as a game tester, and I will only allow games to go through if they're going to end up looking like the new Mortal Kombat game.
There you go. Absolutely. You want to send
Deal?
a deal. There you go. You
Yeah,
want to send Nintendo Switch on a
yeah,
crash and burn? There you go.
yeah.
Have them look,
Well,
have
no,
every game look like that.
it just seems like as likely of a scenario, you know?
Well, it just reminds me a lot when we talk about that, or how bad FIFA is on the Nintendo
Yeah.
Switch. All the previous years, as IGN has just continuously give them 2 out of 10s each and every year, because the fact is they're doing that same thing. It just reminds me of the Wii and the way that they put so much shovelware or so many lousy ports of Xbox 360 and PS3 games on there and tried to go ahead and shoehorn them in there. But I will say this though, Nintendo does a lot of right things the right way, and they make a ton of money in doing so. And I could see why that there's a lot of admiration and a lot of desire and jealousy to go ahead and half jokingly, say, I want to buy that. But the big thing as far as for me, as far as the software end of it, uh, actually, I want to touch on one more hardware thing, is that with the refresh on the Xbox Series X, if you do or are interested on it, it would be custom design labs possible. As you know, they have base version, but if you wanted to design it yourself, there would be a way to go ahead and incorporate that with their custom design labs, Xbox design labs. So I thought that's kind of cool. It makes me want to think, okay, if that's going to be the future, I might wait to get an Xbox Series X, because I have an S, but I might wait to get an Xbox Series X if I can design it and as far as the way I want to. But before we head on out, and before we talk about the movies that are coming up this weekend, plus also as well a little bit more on the television streaming platform, want to go ahead and mention some of the games that they had talked about. Again, that part of it was from a memo about 2020. So all these time frames on when they were expected to release are off. So I'm not even going to mention when they were off, when they were expected to come out. They're all messed up at this point in time. And we don't know if all these games will be coming out, but they talked about a new Doom game entitled Doom Year Zero. So it may sound like a prequel.
Mhm.
Ghostwire Tokyo 2, which kind of surprised me because that game came out too. Decent reviews, but I didn't know if it sold well enough to go ahead and support a sequel. Dishonored 3, as far as also as well a new MMO by ZeniMax, which is of course one of when you talk about Cinemax, that incorporates the whole 9 yards with Bethesda right there. That's They didn't give that a name as of yet. But Elder Scrolls 6 was going to be Xbox exclusive. We pretty much figured that out already.
Yeah.
Also, as well, they talked a little bit more about the upcoming Indiana Jones games. But the thing that was most intriguing to me, not that it was a Red Dead Redemption 2, a bump up, which we talked about, which ultimately 2K released, whatnot, but they did talk about that behind the scenes as well. was the fact that they talked about a remaster of Fallout 3. Eh, really? I know a lot of people that are like, if you like your Fallout, that's one of the best versions, so they really like that. I'm not a big Fallout fan, so I could really care but less. But of Elder Scrolls 4
Mhm.
Oblivion remaster as a possibility that would have come out actually this year, I believe, what it was originally targeted to. So that, if it's done well and it looks great and it looks a lot like what they've already done in the modding community out there on PC for it, if they do that, Microsoft, you have my money. You have
Yeah,
my money.
one of my girls back in Halifax, Cynthia, who's plays on Wizards and Wine, she's an Elder Scrolls fanatic. She will
Oblivion is the
lose.
best.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. She will lose her mind if that happens. She will
Oh,
be thrilled. I will lose her as a player at my table.
I told Josh on the Monday show. This is before I even knew about the leaks that came out later that night. Uh,
Mhm.
I told him, I said I had played 130 hours already of Oblivion, and I don't remember where I left off in the main story. I never finished the main story. I don't know where I
Yeah,
left off, and I left that off years ago. I just had so much fun whenever I go back to it, like every 2 or 3 years, and I just go ahead and I'm doing my own thing as far as in the gladiators, or I'm going and exploring and doing something that I forgot. Oh yeah, there's the main story that I got to go ahead and finish one of these days. So if that's the case and they bring out a remaster, I'm really good with that. But yeah, they came out with a ton of stuff as far as is concerned. That got all leaked out. That depressed Phil Spencer. It seems like every time he gets a bit of good news with the fact that now Starfield has had over 10 million players play Starfield, he gets this right on his doorstep. So he's had a pretty rough past. Actually, he's had a pretty rough decade so far. So back and forth, but here's hoping that a lot of that stuff that was announced comes out to fruition. But if you have thoughts on all these massive Xbox leaks that came out earlier this week, as far as no optical drive in the future for Xbox, as far as a new cloud supportive controller, all the game announcements that they were, or at least the stuff that they were working on that may or may not come out as far as in the future, all the titles that they were talking about, please let us know your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. But before we head on out, my friend, I wanted to leave a little bit of time left for what's coming out on streaming and the movies this weekend. Uh, this weekend at the box office, you have, I'm not laughing because of dumb money, because that's based off the GameStop fiasco, where a
yes.
lot of people were able to profit off that, including our own Josh Peterson. He was able to profit off that as far as that's current, the speculation and all that. But they made a movie on it. They actually turned around quite quickly. So there was a lot of people that are interested in that. So that is being released this weekend. Also, as well, a horror movie that's coming out, It Lives Inside, from the producers of Get Out. So that's coming available. That may actually, depending on the horror market that's out there, that's been very supportive, that could actually sneak in as far as a number one this weekend. But the movie I want to talk about before we head on out is the Expendables number 4 with a lot of the old crew, not the whole entire crew, but the whole,
Yeah.
a good portion of the old crew, and I emphasis on old, coming back together one more time for another go round. I mentioned in the Monday show with Josh how we were talking about Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, and also as well as far as A Haunting in Venice. This was just extra money. Yeah, they might not, those movies, specific movies, may not make a dollar in profit, but their predecessors made so much money before that, especially the first original movies in both those series,
Yeah.
that it really doesn't matter. Overall, the series is going to be successful because of how much money you made off the first one. Same thing with Expendables. The Expendables 4 comes out, does okay overseas, or if it doesn't, really at this point, it's a late September release. Pretty much all bets are off at this time of the box office on something that actually makes. We've seen it do well at this time frame and this month. We've seen other movies that have been released in this month do pretty poorly. Your thoughts on Expendable 4s before we head on out?
Well, I mean, it's gonna do okay at the box office. There are people who just love those, larger than life explosions everywhere popcorn flicks, and there's nothing wrong with those movies. I am guilty myself of enjoying, a movie where you can just sit down and turn off the brain and just, kind of vacantly stare at the screen, and you don't have to think too much about the plot because what's a plot when you're
Yes.
watching those movies, you know? So it's fine. It's another opportunity to see, some of your favorite action stars on the big screen, and that's always a good thing. There's always that feeling of nostalgia that comes along with seeing them. So I don't think that there's a bad thing about the movie at all. So it's not going to
No,
get me
no.
into the movie theater yet. I'll tell you that though.
Kurt Affair is actually looking forward to Iko Uwai. Man, one of the best martial artists ever.
Mm.
He's going to be in this movie, especially if you've seen The Raid Redemption, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. Yeah, absolutely. Him and anything, there's some fights coming up, obviously, for him. So it's going to be good to see him in that kind of role for this. But yeah, Sly Stallone, Jason Statham, Megan Fox is in this time around. There's been a whole host of former action hero stars, and that's all from Chuck Norris, Harrison Ford, to
Yeah.
Mel Gibson. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've all had their turn in this series. Antonio Banderas has been in this series. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of great names from the past that are still trying to go ahead and bleed one out. Dolph Lundgren as well. So yeah, we'll see what's going on. 50 Cent is in this one, I believe, as well. So yeah, definitely want to go ahead and say if you're interested, that's your thing. I think this movie, though, I'm going to go ahead and touch on one last show here before we leave, but I want to say one thing on Expendable 4 is this is the type of film that maybe should have been turned over to Netflix, because a great showing on Netflix could extend the series even more, because we've seen these mindless action flicks do really well for 2 or 3 weeks on Netflix.
That's true. And I often see them leave trend that top 10 trending on Netflix, which I think is really just marketing. But anyway, you see them leave that top 10, and then they're gone for a couple of months, and it's almost like people rediscover it, and then it makes it back into the trending thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if it did have quite the extended life possibly on Netflix. Even if it doesn't do incredibly well at the box office, there's certainly life after that, I think, for this one.
Yeah, see, because the movie's being reviewed horribly, although they've never been reviewed well.
Yeah.
This one is not being reviewed very kindly. I just think it probably would have been better in hindsight if they see these movies and put them out on a streaming platform, because people will watch that in droves because there's nothing else to watch at times like these. So a
Yeah.
movie like that could thrive on a platform like a Max, or especially a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, instead of tanking at the box office, which it's more than likely to do this weekend. But then again, the series in itself, overall, you have to categorize it as a win, because they've been able to go ahead 4 installments and been able to make money on it.
Yeah, for sure. And it really, any opportunity I have to see Jason Statham on the big screen is an opportunity that I will more than likely take. So
Coming up after the Meg 2. There you go. Absolutely. Kurt Affair says Netflix would make it the Expendables. Yeah, they would probably go ahead and put out a couple more. I mean, again, if it's a mindless action flick, I mean, they've already had Gal Gadot and Chris Hemsworth on doing a few, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's leading the charge for Netflix. So there you go.
yep.
Absolutely. That would have been the best thing indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on Expendables 4? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Kurt Affair saying you can pretend it's a date movie with Megan Fox, Jason Statham, and the older uncles. That's true. He thinks, though, it would be better than Six Underground. Yeah, that was pretty bad. There are
Mm,
all those action movies on Netflix. Not all of them, but most of them have been pretty bad. Yeah, but they're
oof.
watchable. They're Netflix. People watch them. They Netflix and chill. And I'll leave it at that. But before we head on out, one last thing. Speaking of Mel Gibson, who we mentioned earlier, he is coming out this weekend as part of the Continental, which is supposed to be a prequel in the realm of John Wick. Your thoughts before we head on out?
Super excited about it. I love the John Wick universe, and I am thrilled that we're getting shows and even the rumors of the shows that I've been hearing about coming out of the John Wick universe. It just all seems very interesting. It was really great world building that they did in those movies, and the mystery of the Continental, and how that fits into this greater world of all these assassins, is definitely one that is very, very interesting to me. In the trailer for the 3-part series that's coming, there's some really great moments in it. There's going to be some great action. There's going to be some great hand-to-hand combat stuff going on. There's going to be some amazing gunplay, as we expect, some gun fu, if you will. And also, one of the things I really enjoyed, it's set in the 70s. And there are a couple of moments in the trailer that the trailer hits these almost like blaxploitation poses and things like that with some of the characters. So I just thought that that was really fun. A nod to Superfly, which is always a good thing. So I'm I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. Is John Wick without John Wick going to work for everyone, though? I think that's the big question.
That's true. So we'll definitely have to look forward to seeing the reaction to this. They did pretty good with a couple of their previous series, including Twisted Metal. So we'll see what happens with the Continental that is out this weekend on Peacock. Current Affair says, I agree, Melinda. Like all the blaxploitation angles, I'm a Rudy Ray Moore fan. So yeah, absolutely. There you go, indeed. But Melinda, it's been a great episode. Cannot thank you enough again, as always, for stopping by. But any last thoughts before we head on out?
Oh my goodness. So Wizards and Wine, we finished with The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. We had our finale last weekend, so we're busy behind the scenes getting the last editing done on this season. And with the Vegas table, we are getting ready to launch into my very first attempt at a full-on homebrewed campaign. I'm pretty excited about it. We played for ourselves in house, so you're not going to see it streamed anywhere. We're going to release it, I think, like an episode 0, but we kind of did like the prologue, which moves the characters from the end of Witchlight into the world that I'm building for the next campaign. So it's all the same characters. So it's still Amaryllis, Bevy, Les, Divot, and Trix moving into this new world. And we hope, at least I plan to take the campaign from characters at level 10, which they are now, up to level 20. So it's the first time also that I've tackled that end of the leveling system in D&D. So I'm going to be learning a lot this season. Is it all going to go smooth? I hope so, because I've worked for months on this campaign, and I'm so excited to finally get the chance to introduce my players and the audience to it.
As Melinda would say, oh man.
Yeah, indeed.
But, if it all goes wrong, you
Mhm.
could just call me.
Yeah.
I'll bring over my Switch, and you can play Mortal Kombat 1 and show them off.
It'll
Switch.
make me feel so much better.
Yes, absolutely, indeed. So for Melinda Barkhouse Ross, this is Gerald Glassford. It's a beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great